Hey guys, welcome to What's Up, Etown. It's Captain Ron, and of course, Jamie. How are you, my friend?
Hey man, awesome. How you doing, Ron? Good to see you, buddy.
I'm good. We're back.
Yes.
I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited. We got a great guest on the show again. We've got a good guest. Yes.
Like it just keeps going. Like Scott was great. Bingo Tunes Godfather. Ken Reed, man. I'm so glad you got a chance to get him on. Like I'm glad I met him. He was cool.
Yeah. He's definitely an amazing guy for sure. 100%. And this guy is equally as good. Mr. Lars Callieou. I always screw up his name.
He spelled it phonetically for us and everything. Let's get him in here.
Oh, Callieou. Let's get him in here. Lars, come on in, buddy.
I hope you guys were setting up because your guests can't hear you. You're setting them up like this guy's a complete idiot.
Yeah. No, I messed up huge. Callieou, we talked about it beforehand and then still messed it up. Like, how do I do that?
You're really sideways.
You're sideways. You're a little sideways. Have you been drinking?
I feel like
you guys are sideways on me.
Well, I can just turn my. Oh,
there we go.
Oh, no,
how's that?
If that works.
Did we fix it?
There we go. Beautiful.
Awesome, man. Lars, thanks for joining us, man. You have been all over the world, a big comedian in town, obviously. I've seen we've done tons of shows together, actually, past, present, all kinds of different stuff. So
yeah.
How are you doing with this whole COVID-19 stuff?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Is this something that's happening right now? Is that...
Well, let me ask you this, Lars.
Is it a cousin of yours or something?
Where is the last gig you played?
St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, or March whatever, Melbourne, Australia.
Oh wow!
So that was the last one. So 17 years I've been doing this crazy stuff, and we were over in Australia, and we came back, and so I had never taken more than 4 days off in 16 years.
And get out of here. Wow.
I haven't, and I had gone 46 days without a show. And Jerry Seinfeld had a great quote. It's one of my favorite. He goes, "When I take 4 days off, I can tell. When I take 5 days off, they can tell." And so, you know, you can always tell when you're a little bit, your timing is just needs a little bit of work. You got to polish it up a little bit. So when you have a big show coming up, you always rattle off a bunch of gigs because you got to stay sharp. You know, it's like playing the guitar. I don't play the guitar, but you pick up a guitar and you can't just pick it up and start playing. You got to warm up. You got to get back into it. And so stand-up comedy is just like that, man. It was George Burns who said, "Stand-up comedy is like riding a bike. It's almost impossible to get paid for it."
There you have it.
It's true. It's like I really don't know how you do it, man. Jamie, you actually have a really good story about doing stand up.
Oh, it's early for that. But yeah, we can maybe circle back to that if I'm feeling braver. But I did a 7 minute. I did a bit on the funniest person with a day job that the contest the Bear was doing back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I did a 7 minute piece at the comic strip on Bourbon Street. And I mean, I was drunk when I did the application with a buddy of mine. And it was just a joke. We were sitting in the kitchen and we saw the thing. And so I filled out the application and it's like, "What kind of material do you have?" And I was like, "Material? I'm just going to drink 10 Ryan Cokes and get up and tell some stories." You know, and then I got a call like 3 months later out of the blue saying, "Hey, we've selected you. You're performing on May 24th. You just need 7 minutes of material and good to go." So, yeah, sure enough, yeah, I went to the I guess I'm telling the story now. Lars, thanks for being a guest on our show. Let me talk about myself now. So I go to the comic strip and I'm walking around in the back area there. And there's 11 other people, and they're feverishly writing in their scribblers, and I'm just rolling around like I don't know anybody back there. So I walk up to this one guy and I say, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And he looks at me like I'm stupid. Like, "What do you mean?" I said, "What do you like? Everyone's writing. Like, what are you doing?" And he says, "I'm going over my material." And he's got like a book like and he's going pages and circling stuff and making notes, and it's like, Jesus. He says, well, like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to go get a drink next door and I'll come back. Like, I'm so unprepared for this. So I went to the Hudson's across Bourbon Street. I pounded 5 double ryes and I came back and I went up and told stories for 7 minutes. It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And I'll never do it again.
Yeah. The only reason why I wanted you to tell that story before we talked to Lars is I knew that you would find it absolutely humorous that you went up there with literally no material, because I know how hard he works on material. Like, you work on material, right?
I do a new hour every night. I've actually never repeated a joke in 17 years. I'm pretty. I was at your show, by the way. I saw your set.
Oh yeah, it was pretty bad, hey?
No, it was fine. Fine for somebody first time. Yeah.
I stepped on the mic cord, and the cord pulled out from the mic.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a movie called Comedian, and Jerry Seinfeld, he's working on a new hour. So he's retired all of his material and he's working on a new hour. And they asked him, what thought do you have before you go on stage? And he says, just get the mic out clean. And so whenever a young comic pulls the mic out and the cord falls out, another comedian and I will always look at each other and go, just get the mic out clean.
Yeah, I did. I got it out clean, but it was I stepped on it and then it wasn't clean there for a second.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I couldn't imagine. My heart is beating fast thinking about that 8 minutes, and I've never done it. I've been in front of crowds, obviously, but never ever done stand up in front of people, which I know is completely different.
No, I mean, it's not necessarily. I think anybody could do comedy. I think that the people who become professional comedians, the people that end up doing it for a living, are the people who do it because they have no choice but to do it. Somebody asked Seinfeld, what advice would you give for an aspiring comedian? And he said, if you don't have to do comedy, don't do comedy. And, I don't do comedy because I want to. I mean, I thought about it from the time I was 6 years old. I do it because it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. There's nothing else. When I know I have a show that day, and I've been really lucky in that I've done 400 shows a year for like 16 years. So I'm the luckiest person in the world. And when I know I have a show that night, man, there's a bounce in my step. I know, I don't care if I have to drive 15 hours to get to the gig. I don't care, man. If I know I have a show, that's it. And so I think people who pursue it with, you're just not going to accept no for an answer. You're just going to get really good at it so that you can do it all the time. And then the other people who don't really want to do it or just want to try it once or twice, I love those people too, because they have an appreciation for what it's like to stand on stage with nothing but a microphone. Yeah. And I love that there's nothing to hide behind. It's your words, your thoughts, your ideas, and a bunch of strangers who don't know anything about you.
Yeah, it is so true, man, because like I've done thousands of karaoke shows, where I'll walk into a room full of strangers, and it still didn't. I mean, I guess the only way that really prepared me for the stand-up was just that I was comfortable holding a microphone. I knew how to talk into a microphone and pause and do that kind of thing. But there's that pressure. Like, people are at the comedy club. They expect the guy who's got the microphone in the hand to make them laugh on demand, right? And that mindset was a trip for me, because I just wasn't prepared to be funny on purpose on demand.
So that's an interesting point. I've never discussed this particular point before. I don't know if the audience expects you to be funny, and I've never had this thought. This is actually really cool. I don't think the audience expects you to be funny. I think they hope you're funny. And by that, I mean, when you go to a comedy club, and if you've never heard, like, let's say you're going to go see a comedian you've never heard of. I'll name somebody super funny who's like a little obscure. Say you're going to go see Reno Collier. Okay. Now, do you guys know who Reno Collier is?
No.
Don't know.
So you're like, Reno Collier, never heard of him. Maybe you will look up a YouTube clip. So you're on your way to the comedy club. You go in, you pay your admission, or you're meeting your friends there for a birthday. You get into the club, you sit down. And your thought isn't, most people's thought isn't, these guys better be funny. Your thought is, man, I hope this is a good show. So it's like when you go see a movie,
that's true.
you're like, man, I hope this is a great movie. And when you leave and it's exceeded your expectations, you're like, oh, that was a great movie. And you can't wait to tell your friends about it, you know?
Yeah.
So Reno Collier is one of the, just a randomly selected, I could have picked, like, I got 100 names I can give you.
I can imagine, yeah.
He walks on stage. He actually toured with Larry the Cable Guy, like, for probably a couple of years, and paid for a house touring with Larry the Cable Guy as his opener. And Reno is killer funny. He opens with this joke. He probably doesn't, I mean, this was 10 years ago, but he gets on stage and he's holding a beer, and he's this like rednecky, he's so funny. And he goes, I was almost famous. The producer of Friends was at my show. A producer of Friends came up to me and said, "Are you drunk?" And he goes, "Duh, it's dark out." And then he's like standing there holding his beer, and he goes, "The producer of Friends said to me, if you're drunk all the time, you ain't never gonna be famous." And then he just slowly takes a sip of his beer.
He's like, I don't care.
It's so funny. The dude is so funny. There's another guy named Matt Sadler. So Matt Sadler out of Austin, Texas, is a short, like, say 5'7", 5'8". He comes on, and when Matt Sadler does comedy, he like really his face gets really red. It looks like his head's gonna pop like a balloon. And he goes, I did this show in a biker bar. And he goes, and after the show, I was shooting pool with a guy named Big Eddie. And he goes, and this guy came over and tried to pick a fight with Big Eddie. And he goes, he was poking him in the chest. And then Big Eddie said the greatest thing I've ever heard in the preamble to a fight. He said, "Motherfucker, I got bail money in my sock." And he did. Do not pick a fight with a guy who keeps bail money in his sock, because you will lose.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Sadler's wicked funny. But I've stayed with Matt Sadler in Austin, and he and his wife, they're just like so great. And they go down to a bar and have drinks like during the week, like, and they watch Jeopardy at a bar.
Really?
It's like so fun. And they're both wicked smart. Like, I'm pretty good at trivia, but it's fun. So yeah, Matt Sadler's a good buddy of mine. Look him up if you guys are.
That's awesome. Definitely look that good out. Obviously, you've toured with like Joan Rivers, Jeff Foxworthy, Bob Saget, Martin Short.
Yeah, here's a fun. So comedians will use a bullshit credit. Now, okay. If a comedian says in their bio, if it reads, he has opened for. Now, usually that means you were paid to open for them, but sometimes they'll do an open mic and the headliner will drop in to do a spot and they'll be like, "Oh, I opened for da 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 da." Right. So if you weren't deliberately booked, and then if you say I've toured with, that means you've toured with them as an opening act. And so if you're ever reading a comedian's bio and you go, he's shared the stage with such people. When they say shared the stage, that means they did an open mic and the comedian dropped in. Like, so they were in LA or New York and Chris Rock did a spot. They're like, he has shared the stage with the likes of Chris Rock. That's bullshit. It's a bullshit credit.
He peed in the same bathroom that somebody else peed in that month.
Yeah. And so I have toured with Joan Rivers and Bob Saget. So I've actually been on tour with them, like, to other places other than Edmonton. I have opened for Martin Short, Jeff Foxworthy. Like, those shows were all in Edmonton. And so I only toured with the other two. I don't want people to think I was misrepresenting.
Good.
Yeah. So, and also people now know when they're reading a bio, if it's like, he shared the stages with such greats as, but
like this guy. You just popped this guy.
So we're going to have, it's basically comedians that are going to be lynching you for giving up the secrets like magicians.
Yeah, but they don't have any real credits, so what are they going to do?
There you go.
We're like, I opened for my mom one time. That was awesome. I know there's a joke there, Lars, somewhere, right?
Yeah, I wrote one that's similar to that, but it's pretty raunchy. I'm a clean comedian, but that reminded me of a joke I wrote. I've never told it on stage.
Well, there's no stage here. You're in your office.
I don't know if your listeners are listening. They're going to turn it off after this.
That's raunchy. It's all good.
The joke that I wrote, and I have never told it. I didn't use it. I was just writing jokes one day. So I have a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than I am. The idea was if you were trash talking your brother, so you're like playing basketball or hockey and you're chirping him. And I thought one of the chirps, and again, hey, listeners, this is not for the faint of heart. And the idea was what could you, turn it off for the next 30 seconds. What could you say to your brother when you're chirping him to make him like, try and trash talk him? And I was like, I've had my head in your mom's vagina.
It's a hell of a good trash talk.
But I would never tell it on stage. I don't think you could. I don't think you could shape that in a way to make it hilarious. And so I like wrote it down one day, and I'm like,
and you could only do that with your brother too. You couldn't do that with.
Well, I could do it with my sister too, but I don't play sports against her.
True enough. Doesn't work with somebody on the street though. That's for sure.
Well, or you just may not want to admit whose list that would apply to.
Yeah. So,
that's so awesome.
Now, having said that, though, if I listen to your radio show and I hear you say that to Norm, I'm gonna go star that.
Speaking of that, you said you have a radio show. Let's tell the people where they can hear that.
So it's funny. So my parents were musicians, and my dad had a radio show when I was like 4 and 5 years old, and I had this vague memory of it. And he used it to promote local musicians. So it was in Fort St. John, where I was born. And then I was about 13 when I saw Good Morning Vietnam. So I remember watching Robin Williams' portrayal of Adrian Cronauer, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I want to be a DJ. Like, I want to do that. And so in 2004 or 2006, maybe it was 2007. No, 2006. Anyway, regardless. I approached CJSR, which is the university station. I approached them and we pitched them with a show idea. And the show was an hour-long comedy radio show. And I like the fact that the radio show predates podcasts. So my radio show existed prior to podcasts. And so, I mean, radio shows were always podcasts, but so we started it 14 years ago, and it was nominated for 2 Canadian Comedy Awards. We've had on Doug Stanhope and Bobcat Goldthwait and a slew of fantastic guests. I officially handed the show off 2 years ago to Norm Shaw, who was my co-host for a bunch of years. So it's his show now. It's I can't. There's very few things that I'm really proud of. The name of the radio show is something I'm really proud of. I am. I allow myself a little bit of self congratulations there. So it's comic and then genius with a J. And whenever I played trivia growing up, my character name was always Genius with a J. And the idea that there's this visual joke, so you read it comic genius, but it's on the radio, so you don't know. You actually, like, if you were just listening, you wouldn't know that we're making fun of ourselves. Like, these guys actually think they're comic genius. Like, this is not even that good. And so it's a visual joke on the radio, and the visual joke is making fun of us, but you can't get it. It's because you listen to the radio. So it ends up being. And one person did comment on our Facebook page that said, "You guys spelled genius wrong."
Did we though?
I'm like, I don't think so.
Did we?
Yeah.
That's
and
hilarious.
so comic genius, and it airs Wednesdays at midnight. It's a 2-hour show now. It started out as a 1-hour show, but it's been a 2-hour show for probably 10 years.
Wow.
And I'm proud of it, and Norm's doing good things with it. He's putting them up on. I didn't want to put them online because I liked the idea of doing the radio show live and having it released into the cosmos. It was just, once it was done, it was done.
Yeah.
Right. And Norm has been putting them all up online, and it's his show now. So, he's getting some good listenership, and, we'll be on tomorrow night at midnight. We're interviewing a couple of comedians from New York today, who gave me some really cool shows. I was in New York, and we went and did house shows. So we did shows in people's houses in Long Island, New York, and in New Jersey.
Wow.
Unbelievable! Wow.
And these people were rich, like
just unbelievable houses.
And like there was like butlers
And stand-up tanning beds.
There wasn't. I don't. There might have been. I didn't ask, but they were like the people were well-to-do, and when you come in and see a butler, you're like, oh man, I didn't know that was. So yeah.
For those of you that don't know, Lars has a stand-up tanning bed, by the way.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, and my family is Métis. My dad's Aboriginal, so I don't need it. But we have people that come by and use it all the time. So if you guys need a tan, message me at Extra Lars. I'll give them a tour. I'll give them a quick tour. We'll take them down.
Oh, there we go. Like,
what did I do here?
The Lars Cribs edition. It's all yours.
Yeah. So I've lived in this house for 7 years, and the guy who built the house is a good friend of mine. I've been friends with him for over 20 years. I used to be a casino dealer. So when he built the house, he installed a stripper pole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now there is stage lights and.
Oh no!
I love this.
And there's smoke. Two smoke machines, 2 fog machines as well.
Nice.
And then there's a stand-up tanning bed that we were mentioning.
Oh yeah.
Is this where all the magic happens?
Yeah. And it was Ryan Short, a very funny comedian from Edmonton, said when he saw this, he said, "You guys have a time machine?"
Yes, we do.
So there's actually, I put it on, like I did a Lars Cribs on Instagram and Twitter. And so if you just look up the hashtag Lars Cribs, LARS Cribs, you'll be able to see all the videos of the whole house.
Perfect. Well, appreciate that. Appreciate that little sneak peek.
This is the bar area. So obviously we have a beer tub and an ice machine. And
very nice.
And then when people come over,
Woodford Reserve, thank you.
You just help yourself. Everybody just
Perfect.
You don't have to. Yeah, you're our guest.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
So really, you know what people liked best? People for some reason really liked the coffee table. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a coffee table that does this, like.
Oh,
wicked!
Wow.
So you can. People like show the coffee table. Show the coffee table. I'm like, okay.
So we need to do a sequel podcast from there.
Yeah. We'll hire some entertainment for you.
Perfect.
Do you guys want boys or girls?
Girls. No, nobody. I love my wife.
Could we go gender neutral?
Yeah, whatever you guys like. We aim to please.
There you go. Hey, I saw a tweet. We didn't talk about this. Ron and I didn't talk about this before, but I saw a tweet that you put up about a video that you took or made while you were traveling Route 66.
Yeah. So I put them. Did I put them on Instagram? They're on Twitter for sure. So I had shows in San Luis Obispo. I never know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. San Luis Obispo, which is almost right in between Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's like right in between them. And so I have a week comedy festival, playing a really great comedy festival called the Slow Comedy Festival. And man, it is a great time. It's like so good. And then I had some shows in Thunder Bay. So what I did was I left the week open between San Luis Obispo and Thunder Bay. And I did it very deliberately because I figured out that if I drove from San Luis Obispo to Santa Monica, that's the start. Well, it's actually the end point of Route 66, the mother road, if you will. And so then I went, got up early in the morning, drove to Santa Monica, went to the end of the pier, took a picture, made a little video, and then I drove the entire length of Route 66 all the way to Chicago. And there's lots of cool stops along the way, lots of cool museums. I stopped in St. Louis, and I did the Gateway Arch with a very funny comedian named Jimmy Schubert. He was playing a club there, so I got to perform in St. Louis, and I had some great pizza in St. Louis. And then I went to Chicago, and it's funny because where the start point is, where my end point was, because I did it in reverse. It says this is the start point of Route 66, is near a hotel downtown Chicago. So I pull over and I park my car in front of this hotel, and the concierge and the bellhop or whatever were like, "Oh, you can't park there." And I said to the guys, "I just drove the entire length of Route 66, and I wanted to take a picture by that sign. Can I go do that?" And they're like, "Absolutely." They're like, "We'll look after your car for you. Go ahead." And
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really neat.
And then they towed it.
Yeah, did I tell you the story already? I came back, it was gone. I'm like, "Oh, those guys got me." It was crazy.
Was that in this infamous the infamous Jetta that you talk about sometimes?
Man. Yeah, we're at 663,000 kilometers
on a diesel Jetta. Wow, that's amazing, my friend. That's unbelievable.
It's been as far north as so it's been to Whitehorse, but we went past Whitehorse. There's a place called Carmack's, and then we went to Alaska, but the place that we went to in Alaska was south of Whitehorse. So you go down to the Panhandle. So you could say it's been to Alaska, but the furthest north it's been is Carmack's, which is just past Whitehorse in the Yukon. The furthest south it's been is Los Angeles. The car has been to Los Angeles, and I was doing a show at the Comedy Store, and the mic kept cutting out. And I always carry a mic and a cable in my car. And I went to the host. I said, "I got a mic and a cable in my car if you want it." And they were like, "Would you go get it?" So my then girlfriend, Ansa, went to my car, grabbed the mic and cable, came back into the Comedy Store, and they used my mic and cable for the rest of the night.
Wow.
That's super cool.
And so it's actually a funny, so that night we were performing happened to be the Golden Globes. It was the same night as the Golden Globes. This would have been 3 years ago. And so we were on Sunset, which is where the Comedy Store is. So all of the after parties for the Golden Globes were at these hotels on Sunset. So when my girlfriend went to get the mic and the cable, she saw Hugh Jackman and Matt Damon, and so they were all getting out of these limos to go to these after parties. So we stood and watched some of the stars get out after the show was done. Nick Nolte came out and a couple other people, and this great big long limo pulls up. And it couldn't pull into where the hotel was, the roundabout where like you couldn't go in there unless you were, So this limo pulls up on the sidewalk, and my then girlfriend said, "Oh, it's probably a nobody." Now she's saying this because the limo wasn't even allowed to go in there, but it was just too long. And as she's saying the words, "It's probably a nobody," Heidi Klum stands up from behind the door. She called Heidi Klum a nobody to her face. Like Heidi Klum is standing up and she's like, "It's probably a nobody," like just right in Heidi Klum's face.
Whoops.
Yeah. And so, and then it's been as far east as Chicago and Thunder Bay. So I'd like to get it to Newfoundland. I'd like to get it. Hasn't been to the Northwest Territories yet. It's been up to high level, which is only about 200 kilometers from the Northwest Territories border. Yeah. So, it's been a great car, knock on wood. And the plan is to get it to 1 million kilometers. So I drove it off the lot brand new. It's a 2010. Nice. So it's been 10 years. And we've, because I spend so much time overseas now, I'm putting on about 60 to 70,000 kilometers a year. But when I was doing most of my touring in North America, I was putting on between 80 and 100,000 kilometers a year.
So definitely not leased.
Definitely not leased.
No, I'm still leasing it. I'm still leasing it.
100%.
The guy who sold you that is laughing.
Yeah. He's a friend of mine, actually. The guy who sold it to me is still a friend of mine.
So does Volkswagen know that you've got this car still going like this?
Yeah. So the dealership that I bought it at, Norden Volkswagen, last year they made me customer of the year. So we shot a little commercial, and they gave me some money, and so I was customer of the year, and so they're well aware that we're at this. So I'm going to have a party when I get to what would be the equivalent of returning from the moon. So at 720,000 kilometers, you would have been to the moon and back.
Wow.
So when I get to 720,000, I'm going to throw a party. And then when I get to 1 million, I'm going to have another celebration. And the car is going to get a very comfortable very well-deserved retirement.
And then if
That is so
Volkswagen
awesome.
if Volkswagen is smart, they're buying you your next one.
You know, it's funny. I mean, whatever they do is fine. If you have a car that makes it to 1 million kilometers, knock on wood, you're pretty lucky. You know,
Yeah,
so
for
you got what you wanted to out of it. If they do something nice like that, great. Otherwise, it was an incredibly reliable car. I love it, man. I love it. So if you worked out like, 663,000 kilometers, I've spent some time in that car.
That's a lot of hours, man.
That is a lot of time in your car for sure.
The guys in Salt Lake City, I pulled into a dealership to get a diagnostic in Salt Lake City, and they thought that was in miles. So they didn't know it was kilometers. So when the service department guys got in my car, they were calling each other over, and the service department manager in Salt Lake turned to me and he said, "Have you ever gotten out of this car?"
That's hilarious. That's awesome. Obviously, you've done a lot of touring. As we're talking about, you're driving lots of places. You're also flying lots of places. What's your favorite place? Like where to do comedy or even visit?
Well, so I've been really lucky. Like, I mean, the luckiest person in the world. And I've really found. So I've been going to New York since 2007, and the plan has always been kind of to move there. I like New York because you don't have to be pretty. New York is a comedy mecca, but Los Angeles, if you're good looking, you're going to make it a lot further. New York, there's a real, it's a great equalizer. If you're funny, you're funny. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation, your color, where you're from, anything. If you are funny, you're gonna go places. And so I really love New York City, and I find that the energy of New York has always suited me. It's like I want to do 3 or 4 shows every single day. I want to get up and go. And every other place I've ever been, I feel like I tire that city out. And
Right.
it seems really egomaniacal to say that, so I say that with a little bit of humility. But I get to New York, and after 2 weeks, I'm like, whew, this city is kicking my ass. Like, you can do shows at 1 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're go. And by the time you get to 2 weeks, you're like, oh, I need a day off. Like, it is exhausting. And so I love it. You can walk around Manhattan, or prior to all of this, but you can walk around Manhattan at 2:30 in the morning, and there's really nobody out there. Like, it's like your average city. Most of the things shut down around that time. But there is so much opportunity, and it really is based on your hustle and how good you are. It doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I love it. But Australia is so much like Canada that it's spooky. I wish we could take every Canadian and put them in Australia, and every Australian and put them in Canada, because you kind of end up walking around a little bit. You're like, this is just like Canada. And it has this, it became a country in 1901. So it's about the same age as Canada. The population is about 24 million. So it's this massive country with a small population. So there's always been a sense of, you're pioneering, whether it was Canada or whether it's Australia, like you kind of had to invent your own shit. And so there's this camaraderie of like, you made it through winters, you made it through whatever, typhoons, crocodiles, like sharks, whatever. And then it's a Commonwealth country. So they have the same witty, quippy, sarcastic wit. And so you get there, they have similar gun laws, they have similar advertising, they have similar pubs. So it's this Commonwealth country that's the same age and the same size and population of us. And you realize it's the same country. And it blows your mind. I found it mind-blowing. So
they're very similar people, Australians, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Friendly and accepting, and like to have a good time, love to have beers, like to have a good time all around, right? So.
Yeah, and the sarcastic, like, there's always a tongue-in-cheek when Canadians are, ball busting, or Australians, or you're like teasing your friends. And that sarcasm, I don't find it to be all that prevalent in the US. Like, you make a sarcastic remark in the US, a lot of times it goes miss. Mm-hmm. And if you're Canadian or Australian, you pick up on sarcasm quickly. I wrote a joke about it that never worked, actually.
Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic?
Well, I about Americans not really picking up on sarcasm the way that Commonwealth countries do. The joke was, it never worked, by the way. This is not a funny joke, and it's not in my act. So if you're hoping for a laugh at the end of it, I don't know. Can you guys put in a laugh track or a?
We can anything after post.
Like yeah, perfect. Put a slide whistle in. That's what this deserves. The joke was, so Americans measure distance different than everybody else, right? There we go, miles. They measure temperature different than everybody else. Why not measure time different than everybody else? Just come up with your own time measurement. Like, just whatever. And just take words that you don't use as time measurements. Like, yeah, I'll be there in 3 sarcasms. Or, yeah, man, 4 more manners, and I'll be right there.
4 more manners.
Exactly.
But
I don't think the Americans would get that one.
Well, yeah.
What did they say? Anyways, Lars, we really appreciate having on the show, buddy. Thank you very much for joining us. We're gonna do a little thing here we do at the end of every show. It's called What's Up Etown Top 3. We're gonna ask you 3 things about Edmonton, just ask you your opinion, and then we'll go from there. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
And you can answer as dishonestly as you choose.
Exactly. Yes. What is your favorite restaurant, past or present, right here in Edmonton?
Daddy-O. The people at Daddy-O, if you guys are looking for some Cajun cuisine, Daddy-O's the way to go. If you have not eaten at Daddy-O, you go down and eat. And I'm putting this out there. If you don't love your meal, message me on social media. I'll give you your money back. That's how confident I am. Yep.
Daddy-O.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy-O. That's confident.
That's Cajun. That's on White Ave, yeah?
You've never had Daddy-O?
I've never eaten there, no.
Okay, so I'm going to cap it at $20.
Okay.
But if you don't love it, I will give you your money back. I'm serious. I'm not kidding.
So what would I order? What's the go-to? If I'm going there for the first time, what do I get?
Yeah, so for me, it's the Philly cheesesteak po' boy. So the history of a po' boy sandwich, or poor boy sandwich, was in New Orleans and in Louisiana, it was a French colony, right? So like Louisiana was very French. So they would have a baguette. And by the way, I'm going from memory on this. So if you don't take this as gospel, fact check me on this.
Right,
so I was told this on a tour when I was in New Orleans. So they would take the baguette and they would throw them out. So they would like give them to the less fortunate. And those people who were less fortunate would take the French baguette and they would make a sandwich out of it. So a French baguette sandwich was called a po' boy because you were the poor boy who was using the used baguette to have it. Okay. And so the po' boy sandwiches, the Philly cheesesteak is off the hook. I have it almost every time. Like I walk in and they're like, po' boy. And the sweet potato fries at Daddy-O are the greatest sweet potato fries I've had anywhere in the world.
Oh, and this is from a guy who travels too. Wow.
We gotta go. Sweet potato fries in Louisiana. I've had him in Louisiana. I've had him in Texas at barbecue. I have had sweet potato fries everywhere. And I can say the best sweet potato fries I've ever had in my life are at Daddy-O. I have never had anything better. They're the greatest sweet potato fries I've ever had.
Hey, I'm going. I'm sold. I'm going to try Daddy-O's. I'm getting a po' boy.
Daddy-O for sure. Daddy-O for sure. That's
the
awesome,
jambalayas are amazing. So the Bayou jambalaya will blow your mind. You'll be so full. I get extra sauce with it, but Bayou jambalaya, if you feel like a jambalaya, it's awesome.
Okay. Daddy-O, if you're out there, Lars deserves a free meal, by the way. Just let you know.
They gave me one. They did. They gave me one. I mentioned them in a newspaper article, and I walked in. I gave them the newspaper article, and they gave me free lunch that day.
Awesome.
I love it. That's great. Okay, your second question is, what is your favorite festival in Edmonton?
I got to go with the Fringe. So the Fringe Festival for about 25 years was the second largest Fringe festival in the world.
Wow.
It was second only to Edinburgh, Scotland. Now Adelaide, Australia is number 2. They've surpassed us in size. Mm-hmm. It looks like we're still number 3. I've done a whole bunch of digging on it. We still call ourselves the largest Fringe festival in North America. So we're definitely the biggest in North America. And I believe we're number 3 worldwide. So I am so proud of the people that run it. Murray is the director of the festival. It's a good friend. And that festival supports street performers and theater people and improv and sketch and comedians. I love the Fringe. Absolutely.
It is a fantastic festival, 100%. Yeah. And our final question of the day, actually. What do you love about the city? Obviously, you're from here, travel everywhere else. What do you love when you come home? What's the best part about Edmonton?
Other than the stripper pole in my basement, no. I really, really, really love how Edmonton supports the arts. So a lot of people might not realize Edmonton has more theater seats per capita than anywhere else in our country. Wow. So something like the Citadel, something like the Jubilee Auditorium, something like the Windspear, we really support the arts in Walterdale Theater, you name it. There's a million great theaters in this city, Varscona Theater, whatever. And the comedy clubs, we've had more comedy clubs, 3-4 comedy clubs. That's more than Vancouver. A lot of people don't realize how supportive we are of music and of comedy and of theater and of sketch and of improv. Our improv team here, like Dynasty Improv, are the 2-time world improv champions.
I did not know that.
The world champions.
Unbelievable.
More than once. And so Edmonton is really kind of an oasis. You can call us redneck or blue collar, but the fact of the matter is if you said we have the largest Fringe festival, we have, great folk festivals, we have all these amazing festivals. And on top of that, all of these great theaters and comedy clubs and music, I love it, man. I love the city so much.
That is awesome, man. Awesome. We really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much. I'm glad we got this little bit of time because I know you wouldn't have been in the city at all. We probably could have still done this, but you'd be in, it was Australia and Asia, right? You were
yeah. I would have been in Kuala Lumpur this weekend. I would be in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. So yeah, it's my pleasure. Are we going to start recording now?
Yes. I'm like, nah. Yeah, we'll record the after party.
That was awesome. Lars, thanks for joining us, and we will see you at a comedy club near us soon.
Sounds good.
Good to see you, Lars.
Bye.
Oh, that was awesome talking to Lars. I haven't seen that guy for a long time. He is so funny. One of the funniest humans I know, for sure.
Yeah, total pro, super down to earth. You would never realize just chatting with him how global he really is. So
no, he's definitely representing our city all over the world. Think of the countries he even mentioned in our podcast, and that is not even all of them. Here, I have a list actually of some of the other ones: Kuwait, Iraq, Turkey, Kazakhstan, Dubai. He's a 2-time Canadian Comedy Award nominee. He has toured, as we learned in the show, with Joan Rivers and Jeff Foxworthy, Bob Saget, Martin Short, everybody, man.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's unbelievable. It was really unbelievable to have him on the show. And I mean, just great. I'm glad he could join us. Obviously, he had the time only because he's not on tour in Australia and Asia right now. So, it was good to have him on the show 100%. We've got a lot of great guests coming up. So please stay tuned. Lots of great things coming your way. It's going to be a good time. So definitely join us. I
can't wait to go to Daddy-O's. I'm telling you that right now. We got to figure that out. Put that on the calendar.
We are doing a show from Daddy-O's as soon as we can. 100%. Absolutely.
Right on, man. Well, it's been fun as always, Ron.
It's for sure. Check us out on YouTube, of course, at What's Up Etown. And you can also check us out on Facebook at What's Up Etown, and then all the other social media networks, Instagram and Twitter. So definitely join us. It's been a lot of fun, Jamie. Good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you too, Ron. Take care, buddy.
All right. You guys take care. Be safe out there. And we'll see you guys soon.
See ya.